My name is Zina, and tonight I'd like to share my bladder cancer journey with you. When I woke up on January 6, 2011, I had everything going my way. I was 40 years old. I was married to a wonderful, supportive man. We had 3 boys, 7, 9, and 11. They play lots of hockey. And I had a network of wonderful family and friends. Although I was a professional engineer, I had recently started a second career as a fitness instructor and a personal trainer. So because of that, I was in the best physical shape of my life, and I got to do a job that I just loved every single day. That day, January 6th, everything changed. After working out at the gym, I went to the bathroom, and I had gross hematuria. Not a few drops, enough to fill the toilet bowl. So I drove myself to the ER, and they ran the standard tests. But they told me at the ER that it was standard practice with gross hematuria to do a cystoscopy. And so they scheduled that for about 4 weeks later. So during the cystoscopy, the urologist told me to look at the monitor. Because here at St. Joe's, and they let you watch. So when I looked at the monitor, I could see what looked to me like coral inside my bladder. The doctor informed me that those were tumors in my bladder. And at that point, I was still quite naive. I thought, that's fine. They're probably benign. I'll be just fine. Well, I couldn't have been more wrong. So following the TURBT, I was diagnosed with stage 2, highly aggressive, muscle invasive bladder cancer. I felt like I'd stepped onto a movie set, the wrong movie set. And I kept waiting for someone to tell me, oh, I'm sorry, you're in the wrong place. You really don't have cancer. That never happened. Once I realized that there was no mistake, then the real fear set in. My first thought was that I wouldn't be here to see my boys grow up. I thought about how much I would miss out and how much living I still had to do. Next came the fear and the terror of losing my bladder. The urologist had already explained to me that, in my case, the gold standard for making sure that I'd be around to see those boys grow up was to have my bladder removed. But I just couldn't comprehend losing my bladder at 40. During one of my first meetings with Dr. Shagan, he told me about Bladder Cancer Canada, and he suggested I go to their website. At this point, I was in just too much shock to really participate in any of the discussions. But I followed a lot of them, trying to learn as much as I could about this disease. Over the coming weeks, as I began chemotherapy, the fear of losing my boys totally overshadowed the fear of losing my bladder. I gradually began to accept that I needed to lose my bladder to survive, and survival became my #1 goal. I was finally ready to face having a radical cystectomy. So I contacted a patient advocate at Bladder Cancer Canada. She was actually a patient of Dr. Shagan's who had undergone, had bladder cancer and had undergone the cystectomy and actually had an Indiana pouch, which was what had been recommended to me. Talking to Lisa marked a turning point in my journey. The first time I spoke to her, she was in British Columbia, visiting family. And this was about 5 months after her surgery. The fact that she was well enough to make a trip like that gave me my first glimmer of hope that I could actually have a normal life again after the cystectomy. She talked with me for about an hour, answering all my questions and educating me on what life would be like without a bladder and with an Indiana pouch. When she returned to Hamilton, we met and we talked again. She was always willing to answer my questions, to give me an idea of what it was really like to live without a bladder. And being an engineer, I'm kind of practical and focusing on the facts. So I didn't want to focus on how much it was going to hurt and the pain and all that. I needed to know what kind of dressing to put on my stoma, what kind of catheter to use. I wanted to know how long it would be before I would walk my boys to school again. I needed to focus for my own healing. I needed to focus on how I could get back to living normally. And Lisa was my guide. I would not have been able to cope and recover from that surgery without her example and her knowledge. I'll be forever grateful to her. Around that time, I also began to participate in some discussions on the Bladder Cancer Canada website. I introduced myself as a new patient, and that same day had 6 positive, informative, and supportive replies. I was amazed that these people who didn't even know me took the time to answer me in such a supportive way. Throughout my treatment, I often felt that I had to be strong and supportive for my family because they were actually suffering so much watching me suffer. Bladder Cancer Canada gave me an outlet to speak honestly about what I was feeling because everyone who saw and read my post had gone through something similar. Today, I'm fortunate enough to be a patient advocate with Bladder Cancer Canada. In speaking to other patients, some newly diagnosed, some who've been on this journey much longer than me, I have an opportunity to pay forward the gift of support that was given to me when I most needed it. And to paraphrase a very wise man, Greg Neely, when we help another person through their suffering, suddenly our problems don't seem so bad. So now I've lived without a bladder for about 9 months. Let's see, if I compare my life now to how it was on that day, January 6, 2011, I'm a year older, thank God. I'm still married to a supportive man. I have 3 great sons. I still have a network of family and friends who are wonderful and whom I treasure even more for their love and support over the last year. And I'm working again as a fitness instructor and a personal trainer. So I get to do my job that I absolutely love every single day. I can still run, I do jumping jacks, and I can outlast most of my patients or my members in my classes, in my ROSE classes. The only difference is that I go to the bathroom differently than most people. I use a catheter through my stoma in my abdomen to drain my pouch. I drain on a time schedule, and I need to carry my supplies with me. So the cute little handbags are a thing of the past. But when I compare that inconvenience with all the wonderful things I still have in my life, I consider myself a very fortunate woman. I believe in God, and I believe that my faith and all the prayers said on my behalf helped me to get to where I am today. And for those prayers, I'm truly grateful. Yes, bladder cancer changed my life forever. I will never feel as invincible as I did before cancer. But I've learned to appreciate each day that I've been given. Each day that I can move without pain is a blessing. Being here to cook meals for my family and drive my boys to hockey practice is a wonderful thing. Life after bladder cancer is different, but it's still great. Thank you for your time.